Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. Hari Om to all of you. So last week, the week before, we stopped at chapter 18, verse number 15. So let us just recap what we have covered so far. At the beginning of this chapter, Arjuna asked the Lord the difference between sannyasa and tyaga. Because both words literally translated mean the same, to give up. So first of all, let us understand what is the difference. First, Krishna said, let me tell you what is the opinion of those learned people at that time. So in chapter 18, verse 2, he said, some learned people say that sannyas and tyaga are two different parts. What is sannyas? Sannyas is giving up all actions. So the stress is here, giving up all actions which are prompted by selfish desires. So whenever you have any selfish desire, that particular action, give it up. And what is tyaga? Tyaga is doing all your actions, doing every action, but what do you give up? You give up the fruits of your action. So giving up the fruits of the action means whatever the results of your action, you don't get affected by it. That is what is meant by giving up the fruits of your action. So some learned people say there is a difference between sannyas and tyaga. Then in verse 3, he said, some other learned people say, give up all actions. Don't perform any actions, because every action has got a bondage. Every action, there is some evil connected to it. So they say that better give up all actions, renounce everything. Then there is a fourth group of people who say, don't give up three main actions, that is yajna, dana, and tapa. Yajna is your prayers and rituals, you must not give up. Danam is doing charity, and tapa is keeping austerities like fasting, etc. Then after Krishna gave his opinion, or rather the opinion of the learned people of that time, then in verse 6 he says, now let me tell you what is my opinion. And you notice he starts away straight away with the word. What word does he start with in verse 6? What's the word in verse 6? Huh? What is the word? Tyaga. See, he starts with the word tyaga. So why does he start with the word tyaga? In fact, he says that tyaga means not to give up yajna, dana, tapa. These are our compulsory duties. We must do them. And why we must do them? He explained that they are the purifiers. They purify our mind. If done with the right attitude, they purify our mind. If you recall in the previous chapter 17, he told us the sattvic way of doing yajna, dana, tapa. So if we follow the sattvic way, we will end up with inner purification. Now, there is different terminologies being used, but we will try to simplify this. Tyaga is nothing but karma yoga. Tyaga and karma yoga are one and the same. Because why? Both involve performing actions and giving up the fruit. So there's no difference between karma and tyaga. It's the same thing. And what is the benefit of karma yoga? It helps to purify our mind. Now the next question we must ask ourselves is, what is the purpose of purifying the mind? When we perform all actions as a surrender to the Lord and accept all results as Ishvara Prasadam, our mind is purified. But what is the purpose of that? Why do we want to purify the mind? We remove ego, anger, jealousy, greed, lust, everything we remove. What is the purpose? In order to prepare the mind to go on to Jnana Yoga. So when the mind is purified, it is receptive to spiritual knowledge. So what you're doing, all these prayers, rituals, dhanam, is the preparatory stage known as Tyaga or Karma Yoga, and it brings you up to the stage of Jnana Yoga. Now, Jnana Yoga also same to Sannyasa. There is no difference. So in sannyasa also you learn that you are the soul, you are the self, you are not this body, and therefore every action you do is not at all tainted. It does not bind you to subsequent births. So therefore, karma yoga leads to jnana yoga, leads to liberation. Tyaga leads to sannyasa, leads to liberation. So these are not two separate paths. These are one path leading to the next path. So this is what we must understand. Now, we can just quickly refer to chapter 5, verse 4 to understand this, what we have just discussed now. If you go back to chapter 5, verse number 4, on page 101. Okay. So there Krishna says, again, the word Samkhya is used, so don't get confused with all this terminology. Samkhya is nothing but sannyasa, is nothing but jnana yoga. So, what is karma yoga? Same as tyaga. What is sannyasa? Same as jnana yoga, same as Samkhya. Okay, are you confused now? Confused? Okay, I'll repeat again. There are only two parts. Just imagine, just remember this. There are only two parts to salvation. One path is karma yoga, one path is jnana yoga. But these are not two separate paths, right? Karma yoga purifies the mind and takes us to jnana yoga. With jnana yoga, we remove our doubts and ignorances and we attain moksha. Okay? Karma yoga and tyaga is one and the same. Okay, so tyaga leads us to sannyasa, just like karma yoga leads us to jnana yoga. Clear? Okay, just extra one word is used here, sankhya. Sankhya means to use your intellect to differentiate between what is real and what is unreal. So what is sankhya yoga? It is jnana yoga. It is just different terminology, so don't get confused. Okay. So what Krishna says here, excuse me, it is the ignorant, not the wise, who speak of Sankhya and Karma Yoga as different. For one who is firmly established in either gets the fruit of both. So if you're firmly established in Karma Yoga, through Jnana Yoga, you will get self-realization. So it is all just one path leading to self-realization. So don't get confused about it. Just remember that just there are two parts. Okay. Now, therefore, which part should we start with? Now the question is, you ask yourself, should you start with Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga? Karma Yoga. Majority of us, we have a lot of impurities in our minds. Excuse me. We have to remove these impurities. So we must start with Karma Yoga. So Karma Yoga is the path of action, right? Since Karma Yoga is a path of action, right action, we must know how to perform Karma Yoga. It is not just simply you go, you do dhanam, you go to temple, you pray, that is called Karma Yoga. We must understand Karma Yoga very thoroughly. And this chapter 18, Krishna emphasizes on this. So in verse 14 of chapter 18, we go to verse 14, which we did last week, we covered last week. Krishna said, for us to perform actions, there are 5 components involved. So you must be very mindful now. You are on the path of Karma Yoga, but he says there are 5 components that you must be very clear about. What are the 5 components? The first is Adhisthanam, which means this gross body also. Because you need this body to perform action.
So you must be aware of this gross body. It is one of the components you need to perform action. So adhisthana means this gross body. Second, he says there in verse 14 is karta. Karta means the doer. Okay, who is the doer? The doer is actually the ego who says, I am doing all this action. So there is a doer in us that performs actions and claims, I am doing this action. Now, in reality, who is doing the actions? Who is performing all the actions? Huh? The gunas, exactly. The gunas are the ones which are motivating all our actions. So if we go back, just take a look at chapter 3, verse 27, you will understand this. Go back to chapter 3, verse 27. 27. Page 71. Okay. Chapter 3, verse 27, page 71. All kinds of actions are caused and done by the modes of nature. So the three gunas are the ones which are causing all your actions. Okay. It's not the body, because a body cannot act without the motivation of the gunas. It is not the mind, because the mind also acts under the motivation of the gunas. But he says, however, the ignorant, deluded by egoism, thinks I am the doer. So this is the karta. He says, I am the doer, not realizing that actually I am the witness to all the actions. I'm not the doer. So coming back to verse number 14, chapter 18, the second component is karta, the doer. The third, in order to perform all actions, is called karanam. Okay, what is karanam? Karanam means various instruments of action. That means you need to use your eyes, your ears, your speaking, your vocal cords. You need to use your hands, your legs. These are your karanam. They are the instruments of action. Okay, that is number 4. Number 3. Number 4 is called vividas pratak chesta. Vividas pratak chesta means diverse movements or activities required to perform action. So you have to run, you have to walk, you have to speak. One is the equipment, but you must know how to use this equipment. Okay, what to see, what not to see, what to hear, what not to hear. Okay, what to do with your hands, your legs, etc. Okay, and your vocal cords. Okay, so that is vividas pratak chesta. Okay, and then the fifth one is called daivam. What is daivam? Daivam has got many translations. Okay, some say it is divine will, is the will of God. Okay, because imagine everything is perfect. Let's say a surgeon performing an operation. Okay, he's a very skilled surgeon. He's got all the right equipments. Everything he has, the right nurses, the right equipment, everything. Performs operation, but is not a success. Why? Because the patient's, what you call prarabdha karma, also affects. So this daivam can also be taken as divine will, can be also taken as your prarabdha karmas. So because of the past actions can affect what we are doing now. You may be a perfect person, you may have perfect knowledge, you may have perfect equipment, but the past prarabdha karmas also will operate and change the course of the action. So this is called as daivam. Okay. Now this was mentioned all in verse number 14. Okay. So all these factors, that means you have to be aware of all these factors. Okay. Now, now we go to verse number 15, which we covered last week also. What does he say? Whatever action a man performs by his body, mind, speech, okay, whether right action or wrong action, these 5 which are mentioned in verse 14, these are the causes. Okay, so whether you perform right action or wrong action, you use your body, mind, and speech, and all these 5 components mentioned there, they are the cause of your action. Now, the most important question here is that what is missing from these 5 components? What is missing from these 5 components? Consciousness is missing. The Atman is missing. The Atman is there, but he doesn't mention Atman as the cause of your action. So, excuse me, Atman does not cause any actions at all. And we refer back again. You see, this chapter 18 actually is a summary of the whole Gita. So, there are a lot of verses which you can go back and refer in the earlier chapters. So, we go back and take a look at chapter 5, verse 11. Okay, I'm not trying to confuse you, but trying to clear up certain things. Chapter 5, verse 11. Chapter 5, verse 11 is mentioned there very clearly. Karma yogis, excuse me, perform action with their senses, mind, intellect, body. Again, note that Atman is not mentioned here. Perform action with senses, mind, intellect, body, shaking off attachment for the sake of self-purification. So, all these equipments that you use in the right way will end up in self-purification. Here does not mean purification of Atma, because you cannot purify Atma. Self-purification there means purification of the mind. Okay, they call it chitta manas what is called sudam, chitta sudam. That means the mind gets purified. Okay, so now coming back to this verse, since Atman is not mentioned in this whole group of action, now we come to today's verse 16, to understand the right attitude of action. What is the right attitude of action? So in verse 16 now, Krishna says, Evam sati tatra. Evam, this being so. What do you mean by this being so? This being so that the 5 components are the cause of your action. If you understand very clearly that all the actions you do are only caused by these 5 components, so Krishna says, the one who pashyati means sees, but here he's not talking about your physical eye seeing. Okay, we are performing the actions, but this wise person not sees but realizes that the Atmanam, see the word Atmanam there, meaning the self, the consciousness, is Kevalam, is the non-doer. So he sees everyone performing actions, including himself, he is performing actions, but he realizes that while the body, mind, senses are performing the actions, the consciousness which is in the body is not responsible for doing any actions at all. Neither does it instigate your action. You cannot blame Atman for instigating your action. Neither does it perform any action. Okay. So Kevalam means it is absolute, it is non-detached. The quality of this Atman is absolute, it is non-detached. Okay. So what is the role of the Atman then in this body? What is the purpose of the Atman? If it does nothing, it just sits there. It's just like you have a lazy person sitting there in your house and doing nothing. So there has got to be some function for this Atman. What is the function? Again, we go back, chapter 13, verse 22. Chapter 13, verse 22. Page 250. Purusha, again, the soul. You can, again, don't worry too much about the terminology, okay? It just means the Atman, okay? The Atman in this body is said to be what? Weakness. It is the guide. It is the sustainer, the experiencer, the great Lord and the Supreme Self. So that is the role of the Atman in this body. To be a witness, to be a guide, to be the experiencer. But it does not get affected by your actions at all. Okay, it experiences because it is a life. It is consciousness. It can experience, but it does not get
affected at all. And who is this Atman? Who is this Atman? Who is this Atman? You are the Atman, isn't it? You are not the body, you are the Atman. This is what the scriptures are telling you. You are not this body, because this body you're going to leave behind. Next birth, you come back with another body. This soul will come back and occupy another body. This body you have to leave according to karma. It burns its karma, you got to leave it behind. So what the scriptures are telling you, you are that Atman. Aham Atma Asmi. Have you heard this? Aham Atma Asmi. What does it mean? Aham, I, Asmi, am the Atma. I am not the consciousness. I'm sorry, I'm not the body. So you have to keep on repeating, reminding yourself, okay? So coming back to this verse 16, the one who sees, the one who realizes that the Atman in the body is the absolute, the Kevalam, the non-detached. But what he says, due to what? Impure reason. What is the impure reason here? Akrita buddhitvan. The mind, the intellect is impure. Right? So it is very difficult for us to accept we are the Atman. And we question why. Why Krishna is telling us here? Because your intellect is of impure quality. Why? What do you call, how do you define an impure intellect? How do you define an impure intellect? What is an impure intellect? So why is it ignorant? No knowledge. So what is a impure intellect? Is one that is devoid of spiritual knowledge. And not only devoid of spiritual knowledge, the second problem is, we know, we come to class, we read the books, we know that there's Atman. We know Atman is in the body, but we don't reflect on the knowledge. We get lost in the world and then we forget about this. So when do you remember your Atman? When do you remember that you're Atman? Huh? What? Every Saturday, 4:30 to 5:30. You remember I'm Atman. Then after that you say, Aham Deha Asmi. I am the body. We forget everything. But that 1 hour at least you know I am Atman. Okay? Right. So he says Akrita Buddhitvan. The buddhi, the intellect is of imperfect nature. So the only way to bring it back to the perfect nature is to expose it to knowledge, is to constantly do reflection, sravanam, mananam, nididhyasanam. This is very important, because if you just come here and listen, and then you don't do reflection, the knowledge is again lost, and then you start again next week again, right? So the real problem is we need to focus on this knowledge. We need to focus on this knowledge. And again, if you ask a question, why can't I concentrate? Why can't I focus on this knowledge? It again comes back to our impure mind, which is full of ego, anger, jealousy, pride. So all those impurities also got to be removed. And in hand, you got to also study the scriptures also. So both are important. So, so the Lord says that this person has got an impure intellect, and he uses another word there, durmati. It is because it is polluted. So impure intellect is because no knowledge. Durmati because it is polluted with ego, anger, jealousy, pride, etc. So both problems are there also, right? So now this person with a polluted intellect cannot understand that it is the Atman is just a witness to this all the actions. It is the body that is performing all the actions. So now what is the right way? What is the right way of looking at all the actions? The right way he mentions in verse number 70. So we want to know how we want to improve ourselves, how we want to come to this stage to understand that we are the Atman, we are the witness in this body, and the Atman does not perform any actions.
So in verse number 17, he explains the right path. Yes, here, the one who is different than the one described in verse 16, okay, who has some knowledge of the scriptures, who constantly reflects on the scriptures, and he does a lot of reflection and thinking. What does he see? He says his bhava. The word bhava means his innate nature. Now, how did he make his nature so purified, so sattvic? Because of all the right actions. Okay? Performing actions by surrendering to the Lord, following the path of jnana yoga, acquiring this knowledge. By all these actions, he has purified himself. And thus, what happens? So, the Lord says, Na ahaṅkāra. He is not at all touched by ego. Na ahaṅkāra. He rightly understands that I am not doing any actions. You see, anytime we do something successful, when people praise us, what do we say? Do we accept the praises? Supposing you do something good and people come and praise you, do you accept the praises? What happens when you accept the praises? Then you say, yes, I did it correct, you're right. I did this, I did that. But when we hand over all the glory to the Lord, we don't accept the praises. That's when we understand that we actually do nothing. It is because of the Lord's blessings that things are going on. So when people praise us, we need to pass that on. Mentally, we need to pass it on to the Lord. We cannot accept the praises because we have to understand nothing we have done. We are the Atman, we are the soul, we have not done any action at all. Okay. So here he says, Na ahaṅkāra means he is not touched by egoism. He never says, I am the doer. Okay. And he says, therefore, yasya buddhi na lipyate. The buddhi, the intellect is so pure, na lipyate, it is not at all tainted. It has got no attachment. It has got no ego at all. It is very clear that I have done no action. Everything has been done by the body, backed by the gunas. That's all. So he performs all his duties. He does whatever he's supposed to do, but remains unaffected by both praise and by criticism also. He gets unaffected. And in all our walks of life, we will face it. When we go to work, we face praises, we face criticism. In the family, we face praises, we face criticism. And even in spiritual organization also this happens. Nobody is free of this kind of praise and criticisms. So this is something we have to face every day. And mentally, we have to prepare ourselves. Because anytime we face praise, we face criticism, mentally we have to tell ourselves, this is by the grace of God. Whatever is happening by the grace of God. By praises, I must not get carried away. By criticisms, what do I do? Okay, praises, I know I must not get carried away. What happens when I receive criticisms? How do I deal with criticisms? I must not get affected, dejected, depressed, angry, number one. Number two, I must understand that this has been given by the Lord for me to learn a lesson. So I must learn something from it. I must not get dejected and depressed. So when our mind quickly reacts, and this is very important, it's not that after you lose your anger, then you keep on analyzing, it's too late already. So you must be able to face praise, you must be able to face criticism and mentally surrender it to the Lord. So now he uses the what we call battlefield language now. Now, if a person is very clear that I am the soul is not responsible for any actions, this person has got no ego, then what happens? Krishna says, Hatva api, even by killing Iman Lokan, all these people. Now, why is he talking about killing all these people? Because he's specifically referring to Arjuna's actions on the battlefield. What was Arjuna afraid to do? He was
dreading to kill his relatives and gurus, etc. So now Krishna is telling him, if you perform your duties without ego, so hatva api iman, even if you kill all these people on the battlefield, but such a person who is a realized person, na hanti, actually in reality he does not kill. Now, here we are talking about killing. Let's apply this into our lives. What does this word kill mean to us? It's not that we are going to go around killing everybody. So we must now understand what is this word killing. Krishna is telling Arjuna, what is this word killing mean to us? What does it mean to us? How do we take this and apply it in our lives? He says, such a person, na hanti, does not kill, number one, na nibhadyate, does not become bound. So two factors are there now. Na hanti, neither do you kill, na nibhadyate, neither are you bound. Okay? Now we have to understand this in our lives, because otherwise it doesn't make sense. He's only talking to Arjuna, right? So, if you do your duty, what it means is, if you do your duty and consider yourself as the Atman, and you don't have ego and you discharge all your duties. So, does not kill means, by right you understand, I am not doing the actions. Does not kill means, I am not doing the actions. It is the body who is performing everything, led by the gunas, everything is going on, right? I am not doing any actions, number one. Na nibhadyate, I don't get bound. That means I don't incur the punyam and the papam. Okay? So, if you never consider yourself the doer, you will never be affected by the punyam and the papam. So, how do you free yourself from the cycle of actions now? The only way is to consider yourself as the non-doer. The minute you say, I am the doer, you see, then supposing we look after a family, and our children, when they grow up, they go on to lead their lives and they don't take care of us. And we feel affected because we say, I looked after my children and now they're doing this to me. But the minute you say, I looked after my children, what is that there? What is the word you use now? Huh? I. I is what? I is the ego, the doer. But by right, if you say, I have done my duty, I have done the best of my duty, so now whatever it is, I accept. I've got no trouble in my mind, I've got no confusion in my mind. So he says, na hanti, does not kill. That means neither am I doing the action, na nibhadyate, and I will not incur the punyam or the papam also. So both I am free, and that's how we escape from our cycle of birth and death. I am the non-doer. So this is the right way of action. This is the highest point. Okay, we have not reached that point yet. So what is our starting point? You must ask. Now I cannot accept that I'm the Atman. It's something very, very difficult for me to comprehend. Okay, how do I start with? Initially, I start with understanding that I am an instrument in the hands of the Lord. So at least that much I can do. I might not accept that I'm the Atman, but at least whatever I'm doing, I always consider myself, oh Lord, I am an instrument in your hands. If I'm giving donation on charity to somebody, what do I consider mentally? Oh Lord, I am an instrument in your hands. That will help me to remove my ego, help me to remove all the impurities also. So every action I do, always consider yourself as an instrument in the hands of the Lord. Until you can reach that state where you say, Aham Atma Asmi, I am the soul, I am the weakness. So it will take time. Maybe not in this lifetime, maybe it might take, I don't know how many lifetimes, right? Depends on your own progress. Okay? So Arjuna also had to do the unpleasant duty. And this is again comes back to this point again. We divide duties between pleasant and unpleasant. So unpleasant duties we grudgingly do, we curse the person, we have a lot of anger, bitterness in us. All this is why? Because you think that you are the body doing all the actions.
Again, if you are able to consider yourself as the Atman, the non-doer, you won't be affected by what we call difficult or impossible duties. To you, all duties will be just duties alone. So Arjuna had the same problem. To him, killing was a very unpleasant action. So all these factors of impurity can be removed depending on our own attitude also. Okay. So now Krishna starts the main discussion in this verse 18 now. Now very important to understand about action, because there are many components connected to our action. So from verse 18 to verse 40, see, so many, almost half this chapter, Krishna takes up in just discussing about karma yoga, the path of right action. So verse 18, Krishna will now mention what we call 6 components to every action. Now he divides our action into 6 different components. So let us understand this verse now. Now, what are the 6 components? First is Jnanam, knowledge. Now, and all these 6 components, he will tell you there are 3 ways. There is Sattvic, there is Rajasic, there is Tamasic. Now, if I have Rajasic knowledge, what will happen to my action? If my Jnanam, my knowledge is Rajasic, what will happen to my action? It will also become Rajasic, right? So, first, we must understand Jnanam, knowledge, is of 3 types. Okay. What type of knowledge I must have? I must have Sattvic knowledge. I must have the correct knowledge. When I have the correct knowledge, I will perform the correct action. Okay. So, first component is Jnanam, knowledge. Second component is action or karma. You notice the words there. Jnanam, okay. Karma also is there in the third line. Okay, karma. Third thing to consider is the karta, the doer. The doer also can be of 3 types. There can be a sattvic doer, rajasic doer, tamasic doer. Okay. Fourth is buddhi. Now you might think that buddhi can only be good. No, buddhi can also be rajasic, can also be tamasic. Wrong understanding of the world. He has the buddhi, but he analyzes things in the wrong way. So buddhi also can be of 3 types. Then we come to another very important factor, triti. Triti means the perseverance, the fortitude. You may have the right knowledge, but you might want to do the action, but your willpower is not there. Just like, when people come for Geeta class, then he said, okay, I'm determined to come, 4:30, I will leave my house 3:30. 3:30, heavy rain starts. Then what do? Heavy rain starts. Then you say, never mind, I'll go back to sleep because I don't want to beat the rain just to come for the class. So there's no willpower, there's no push. And then next week, you say, never mind, next week I'll go. Next week again, something else happens, again you go off somewhere. So we must also have the right dhriti, the right dedication, commitment also to stay focused on the right path. So dhriti is very important. Now, assuming you have the right knowledge, right action, you have the right karta, you have the right intellect, you have fortitude, and you perform all this action, what is your ultimate goal? All of us perform actions for what is the ultimate result we want. Do any of you do action to attain sorrow? So what do you want at the end of your action? Happiness. But Lord says happiness also those 3 types. There is sattvic happiness, rajasic happiness, and tamasic happiness. So the purpose of telling us all this is that when we perform our actions, we must stay away from the rajasic and tamasic type of these 6 components and make sure we cultivate the sattvic type. When we do everything according to the sattvic way, we will attain the right spiritual goal. Okay. So now he's saying this in this verse number 18, Jnanam, knowledge. Just look at the first line of the Sanskrit text. Jnanam is knowledge. Jneyam. What is Jneyam? Jneyam means what is the object of your knowledge? Why are you studying this knowledge? Okay, there must be a purpose. I don't just come to Geeta class to pass my time. I'm studying that for the object of making myself a better human being, of attaining my spiritual goal. So, Jnanam is knowledge, Jneyam is the object or the goal of knowledge. Just like I want to study medicine. What is my object of studying medicine? So, Jnanam, I got the knowledge. I go through 4 or 5 years of medical school. I got knowledge. But what was the purpose for me to study this knowledge? Was to become a doctor. So, that is Jneyam. Okay. Then the third thing is Parijnata. Parijnata means there must be a knower. I am the knower studying the knowledge to gain a goal. Are you very clear on this? Okay. So now Krishna is saying these three, Jnanam, Jneyam, Parijnata, he says, Trividam, they are the threefold karma chodana, they are the threefold inducements to action. So before action happens, knowledge, the knower of the knowledge and the objective of the knowledge, these are the inducements. Now, example, you are the, who are you now? You are the Parijnata, you are the knower. Okay. You want to study Bhagavad Gita knowledge, which is Jnanam, because you have a goal in mind that is Jneyam. You want to become a better person or attain what you call self-realization. So all these three come before the action. So all these three we must be very mindful, because all these three can be sattvic, rajasic and tamasic also. Okay. Now we come to the second part. Okay. After you have gained the knowledge, then comes action, right? So the Lord says now in the third line of the Sanskrit text, to perform action, also you need three things. What are the three things? Karanam. Excuse me. Karanam means the instruments of action. What are the organs you need to carry out action? So when you come for Gita class, what do you need? You need your hands and your legs to drive you here. You need to have your ears listening. You might need to see with your eyes. You might need to read the text also. So these are the instruments. Karanam. Second is karma. Karma means what is the action I have to perform in order for me to gain this knowledge. So what is the action you have to perform? Which I hope you are performing now. What is that? Listening, right? Your mind must be fully concentrated. So that is karma. Karanam is the instruments. You may have the ear, but whether you're listening or not, right? So Karanam is the ear. Karma is the action of listening. I'm listening. Okay. Then the third is Karta, means you, the doer. You must be present also. So I, the Karta, using my Karanam, the instruments of action, am doing the karma by listening. Okay, and by also reading the text. So what are these three? The Lord says these three are karma sangraha. They are the threefold basis of action. You need all these three to cooperate in order for you to perform action. You see how scientific, actually, if you look at our religion, it's very, very scientific. How deeply they go into the psychology of human beings. So we can easily identify with all this. So now how many factors has he given you? How many? 6 factors. Okay. 3 are for knowledge, 3 are for action. Okay. Now you may say 6 is too much, right? Too much to what you call to absorb. So God is very kind. Next verse, he summarizes it down to 3, makes it more easy for you. Okay. So what is the purpose of knowing this knowledge? Is the purpose of knowing is to how to improve our quality of karma yoga. I want to do karma yoga. I want to do selfless action. But how do I do it? So Krishna is giving us the guide that you have to be mindful of these 6 factors. Okay. Now in verse number 19, excuse me,
he will now summarize the 6 factors into 3. So make it more easier for us to understand. Okay. Now I've sent the notes to you all today, so you all can see how you summarize everything. Okay. From the 6 components now, he will summarize into 3 components. Okay. So what is the first component? Jnanam. Jnanam means knowledge, right? But in this jnanam also, you can add in neyam. Remember in the earlier verse, there was jnanam, jneyam was separate. But neyam you can add together with jnanam. Why? What is neyam? Neyam means the goal or the object of knowledge. So knowledge and object of knowledge you can combine into one. Because you're studying the knowledge, you must be studying with a particular object, why you want to study this knowledge. So now jnanam and jneyam is combined into one topic already. Okay, is it clear? Any confusion? Excuse me, I'm still running through this bad cough. Okay, second is karma. Karma is the action. Okay, in the karma, we can also include Karanam. What is Karanam? Instruments of action. Because when you need to perform action, you also need to use the instruments. So karma and Karanam now can be added to into one topic. Okay. Third topic is Karta. Karta is the doer, who is the agent, who is performing the action. This Karta you can combine together with Parijnata, the knower. Because a person who's doing the action must be also the knower, who has the knowledge. So now Karta and Parijnata is combined into one. So verse number 19 now, Krishna summarizes into now 3. So all the 3 now, all you need to know is 3 things now. What are the 3 things again? You need to know, where's my Jnanam, excuse me. Jnanam you need to know, that is knowledge. And once you have this knowledge, you then perform karma, the action, and there is a karta who performs the action. Okay. So basically there's a karta, the person who must be equipped with the knowledge, and then he performs the action. So 3 things: jnanam, karma, karta. 3 things only. Okay. Now, what about these 3 things mentioned in verse number 19? He says these are guna samkhyane. Okay, the word guna samkhyane means they have been already taught in the scriptures that these 3 components are affected by the gunas. So all these 3, jnanam, karma and karta, can be subdivided into 3 components each. So what it means is this: karta can be sattvic, can be rajasic, can be tamasic. Your karma can be sattvic, rajasic and tamasic, and your, what was the third one? The knowledge can be sattvic, rajasic or tamasic. So 3 times 3 is total now, it becomes now 9 topics already that we need to know. Okay. So keep this in mind. So he says guna samkhyane means they've already been, samkhya means they've already been analyzed in other scriptures. The Mahabharata talks about gunas, Puranas talk about gunas, Upanishads talk about gunas. So there's a very wide discussion about gunas in all our scriptures, including the Bhagavad Gita also. Especially chapter 14 concentrates on the topic of the gunas. Okay. Now, next topic, next question we ask is, where are these gunas? Where do these gunas exist? So in this same chapter 18, verse number 40, you go to verse number 40, mentions about the gunas there also. Page 321. There is not a being on earth, nor in heavens, nor among the celestial beings who is free from these 3 qualities of gunas. That means human beings have gunas, animals have gunas, devas have gunas, everything in this creation has gunas. Okay? Everything has gunas. So even animals you can see, So out of these three gunas, even in human beings, one guna always dominates the other two gunas. So that's why we all behave differently. Okay. So even in animals, you can see who has got sattvic gunas. Who are the animals who have got sattvic gunas? Cows, some more, huh? Deer, etc. Right? Okay, very calm, very what you call what composed. Rajasic, huh? Dogs, tigers, lions, Rajasic gunas, Rajasic dominant gunas. What about Tamasic? Maybe you can take like hippopotamus or buffaloes and all, they move, or snails like that. They move at their own pace. Tortoise, turtles, and all this. So even in animals also there's dominance of gunas. Humans is there. Devas also they got different gunas also. Okay, Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic also are there. Okay, so everywhere there's gunas. And where did these gunas come out from? So in chapter 14, verse 5, the Lord says, gunas are born from Prakriti. What is Prakriti? Prakriti means all the matter which is in creation. Your body is Prakriti, your mind is Prakriti, everything in this creation comes from Prakriti, which means matter. So once matter was produced, immediately the three gunas were put in matter. So your body has three gunas, your mind has three gunas, everything has got the three gunas. They are everywhere in the creation. Okay, you cannot run away from them. Okay. So now, what does he say in this verse here? Which verse were we in now? Verse number 19. He says these three topics now, Jnanam, Karma, and Karta, Prokchate, are stated to be or said to be Tridai, are three types. What are the three types? Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic. Now, each topic Krishna is going to break down and tell us in detail all these 3 by 3, that means 9 items he's going to tell us in detail one by one. Okay. And then he'll also add in 2 more topics. What are the 2 more topics? One, as I told you earlier, is Dhriti, which means fortitude, perseverance, and the last topic is Sukham, which is happiness. So total you'll have 5 topics. Each topic multiplied by 3, you'll have 15 different verses explaining the whole thing in detail. Okay. So the Lord now says here, Shrunu api, may you now listen very carefully, because now he's going to tell us the secret of right action, how to perform the right action. Okay. So now we're going to start, excuse me, we're going to start the discussion from verse number 20. Okay. So verse number 20 first is going to start with Sattvic knowledge. Then next verse Rajasic knowledge, next verse Tamasic knowledge. Okay. Now, the thing is this. Worldly knowledge also is important to us. Now we are studying spiritual knowledge. Worldly knowledge is important. But what is the difference between worldly knowledge and spiritual knowledge? Why should we study the spiritual knowledge? So by that first we must understand that we are given in our scriptures 4 goals in this life known as the Purusharthas. You know what are the Purusharthas? What are they? Artha, Kama, Dharma, Moksha. Okay, Dharma, Kama, Artha, Kama, Dharma, Moksha. Okay. Now, what does the worldly knowledge teach you about these 4 components? Which one does it emphasize on? Artha and Kama. Does it tell you about Dharma and Moksha? If you go to school, you take your degrees, your masters, you will know how to make a living. You will be very successful. You will have a lot of karma, your desires you can satisfy. Artha, possessions. You don't need Bhagavad Gita knowledge to teach you how to satisfy your desires and gain possessions. But what you cannot get from worldly knowledge is how to get the goal of Dharma and Moksha. So that is the purpose for us to study. We should not neglect worldly knowledge because it helps us in karma and artha. At the same time, we should not neglect spiritual knowledge because it helps us in dharma and moksha. So you have all rounded dharma, karma, artha, moksha. Okay. So now when we are studying all this, the path of right action,
what are you studying? Out of the 4 Purusharthas, what is the emphasis on? Dharma and moksha. Okay, dharma and moksha, these two things. Okay, so we will now look at the different types of jnanam also, 3 types of jnanam also. Okay, so what is sattvic jnanam now? Lord says sattvic jnanam is yena, that through a person ikshate means sees. Again, here we are not talking about physically seeing, but by what we call by mental reflection, by using your intellect to understand. What does he understand by sattvic knowledge? Sarva bhuteshu, he sees the entire creation, he sees the whole creation. Sarva bhuteshu, what is this creation? Made of moving, non-moving, different people, sizes, shapes, colors, genders, race, religion, everything he sees. There's diversity there. But what does he see? Vibhakteshu, it is diversified. This person sees that the creation is diversified. There is variety in his creation. But what does he see? He says the individual recognizes the bhavam, that one singular entity, okay, that consciousness, that is, what is the nature of this consciousness? It is avyayam. Avyayam means it is immutable, it is imperishable. Unlike the body is perishable, it is constantly changing, but this person recognizes that in every person there is a avyayam, there is an immutable, unchanging consciousness, okay, which is not subject to growth, birth, and decay and death. Okay, number 1. Number 2, this person understands that this consciousness is ekam, it is only one. It is not that you have one Atma, I have one Atma. There is only one consciousness, but it exists in all the bodies. How we can understand this? If you look at, supposing empty bottles, inside all the empty bottles there is air or space. Is the air or space in one bottle different than the other bottle? It's the same. But we only look at the bottle and we think that every bottle has got its own individual air or space. Similarly, this person looks at the whole creation but understands there is only one Atma in the whole creation. So what is the biggest benefit of such a vision? To have such a vision that there is only one Atma in everywhere, in everybody, what is the biggest benefit of this vision? What is the biggest benefit? Where is there raga dvesha? Where is there hatred? You only have hatred when you start dividing people into different. I don't like this person, I don't like that person. But when you see only the divinity in everybody, you feel close to everyone. So you see everybody as one. So there is no more differentiation. There's no more raga dvesha. There is no hatred for one person or love for another person. You love the whole creation equally. This is the biggest advantage. So I will end with just one story, which is a beautiful story told in Shankara Digvijaya. It is his biography of Adi Shankaracharya. In this story, Adi Shankaracharya is walking, he's had his morning bath and he's walking with his disciples. He's going to the temple to do his prayers. And in the opposite direction, there is walking in his direction what is known as a chandala. A chandala is an untouchable person. Okay, untouchable. Why this chandalas is untouchable is because they are the ones who deal with all the dead bodies for the cremation. So in those days, they were considered as untouchables. So now Shankara is walking. That fellow is coming in his direction. So what does Shankara tell that Chandala? He says, move, get away from me, because I don't want you to pollute my path. Please move away. So that Chandala stops halfway and he asks Shankara, who do you want me to move? Do you want me to move this gross body,
or do you want me to move the Atman, the eternal self inside? And when Shankara hears this, he's totally like shocked, because how can an untouchable, low caste person have this kind of knowledge? Actually, it is Lord Shiva. They said Lord Shiva has come in the form of this untouchable to teach Shankara the greatest lesson. Please, no matter how much knowledge you have, be very careful of your ego. So then Shankara realizes that this is not an ordinary human being, and he bows down in front of him and says, I accept you as my guru because you have that higher learning which I don't have. So he asks him, do you want me to move the gross body? I can move that. But how do I move the soul which is all pervading everywhere? So that is, Lord says here in verse number 20, Vidhi tat, know that this knowledge, where you see the oneness in the whole creation, know that to be Sattvic Jnanam. Okay, we'll come back next week and discuss about the rest of the verses. And with the prayer,